History is not a quiet library of facts. It is a raging sea of ambition, greed, and myth, where the greatest stories are often those of the figures who vanish into the storm. In the so-called Golden Age of Piracy, one name was whispered with more fear and awe than any other. Not Blackbeard, not Calico Jack, but a man who would become a king, only to become a ghost. This is the story of Henry Every. The man who orchestrated the single greatest heist in history and triggered the first global manhunt, before disappearing from the world entirely. Our story begins not with piracy, but with service. Henry Every, sometimes recorded as Bridgeman, was a seasoned sailor in the Royal Navy, a man who understood the sea, and the brutal hierarchies of men upon it. But loyalty has a price. By 1694, Every was first mate on the privateering vessel, Charles II, a ship chartered for a Spanish expedition. The crew's wages were months in arrears, their patience worn thin by empty promises. In the Spanish harbor of Corunna, desperation curdled into rebellion. A quiet word, a shared glance, a plan whispered in the dark, the seeds of mutiny were sown not in greed, but in injustice. On May 7, 1694, Henry Every led the takeover. It was swift, decisive, and largely bloodless. He had seized a state-of-the-art, 46-gun warship, and with it, his destiny. The ship was rechristened the Fancy, a name that belied its terrifying new purpose. Every was no longer a first mate taking orders, he was a captain, a commander, a self-declared king. From the outset, Every's ambition was terrifyingly clear. He penned a letter, ensuring it would reach the English authorities, declaring his intentions with chilling clarity. He declared war not on one nation, but on all who crossed his path. A rogue state of one, sailing under its own bloody flag, beholden to no king or country. Every did not plunder the well-trod routes of the Caribbean. His gaze turned east, towards the legendary, unimaginable wealth of the Mughal Empire of India. His target, the annual Mughal treasure fleet. A convoy of ships sailing from the Red Sea, laden with the riches of the Hajj pilgrimage and the spoils of trade. This was a prize so great, it was considered untouchable, protected by the might of the world's wealthiest emperor, Aurangzeb. To attack it was not piracy, it was madness. But Every's madness was infectious. As he rounded the Cape of Good Hope, his reputation preceded him. Other pirates, drawn by the sheer audacity of his plan, flocked to his banner. Captains like Thomas Tew, a notorious American pirate, joined him. What was once a single ship became a squadron, a wolf pack of the sea's most ruthless predators. Together, this pirate flotilla lay in wait near the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, the Gate of Tears. A choke point through which the Mughal treasure must pass. Days turned into weeks. The pirates grew restless. Tensions mounted under the searing Arabian sun. The entire venture teetered on the edge of collapse. Then, a sail. First the escort ship, the Fateh Muhammad, which they quickly overpowered. But this was merely the appetizer for the main prize. Looming on the horizon was the Emperor's flagship, the Ganjai Sawai, the exceeding treasure. It was a colossal vessel, armed with 62 guns and carrying 400 soldiers. What followed was not a battle, but a cataclysm. The Fancy closed the distance, its cannons unleashing a devastating broadside that shattered the Ganjai Sawai's mainmast. One of the Mughal ship's cannons exploded, sowing chaos and death among its own defenders. Fortune, it seemed, favored the audacious. Evry's men swarmed aboard the crippled giant. The fight was brutal, intimate, and merciless. A clash of steel and desperation on the blood-slicked decks. The prize was beyond comprehension. Accounts speak of chests overflowing with gold and silver, sacks of jewels, diamonds, and rubies. The accumulated wealth of an empire. The total value is estimated at over $400 million in today's currency. It remains the richest haul ever taken by pirates, a singular event that has never been equaled. Each ordinary pirate's share was more than a lifetime of wages. They were all made rich beyond their wildest dreams. But this victory came at a horrific cost. The triumph descended into a multi-day nightmare of violence and depravity aboard the captured vessel. The dark heart of piracy was laid bare. Reports sent back to the Mughal court detailed unspeakable atrocities committed against the passengers, which included members of the emperor's own court. When news of the outrage reached Emperor Aurangzeb, his fury was absolute. This was not just a financial loss, it was a profound insult to his power and his faith. He threatened to expel the powerful English East India Company from his lands, an act that would cripple the British economy. The diplomatic fallout was immediate and severe. To appease the Mughals, the English crown was forced to act. King William III placed an immense bounty of £1,000 on Evry's head, a king's ransom. Henry Evry was declared hostis humani generis, an enemy of the human race. This ancient legal term effectively made him fair game for anyone, anywhere, to capture or kill. The world's first ever international manhunt was underway. The full weight of the British Empire and its allies was brought to bear on finding one man and his crew. Evry and his men knew they were the most wanted men on earth. They needed a place to disappear. They set sail for the Caribbean, for the pirate sanctuary of Nassau. In the Bahamas, Evry used his vast wealth to buy his safety. He bribed the governor with treasure and even gifted him the fancy itself, a clever way of disposing of the evidence. From this point, the crew scattered to the winds. They adopted aliases, bought land, and attempted to melt back into the world, their pockets heavy with blood money. Some were caught. Their trials became sensational public spectacles, feeding the public's morbid curiosity about the arch-pirate Evry. But the king himself, Henry Evry, was never found. He took his share of the fortune, and simply vanished from the pages of history. What happened to him? It remains one of history's most tantalizing unsolved mysteries. The man who held the world's greatest treasure disappeared as if he were a phantom. One popular, yet grim, account suggests he was swindled by merchants in Ireland. That the great pirate king, unable to sell his blood-soaked diamonds, died a destitute pauper. This tale, popularized in the biased history of the time, served as a convenient moral lesson: crime does not pay. But there is little evidence to support it. A more romantic theory posits that he succeeded. That he changed his name, bought a country estate, and lived out his days in quiet, anonymous luxury, surrounded by his stolen fortune. Could the man who defied empires truly have settled for a life of bucolic obscurity? Or was his restless spirit forever drawn to the sea? Recent evidence, a coin minted with an Arabic inscription found in a New England orchard, suggests some of his crew may have settled in the American colonies. This opens the staggering possibility that Every himself made his way to the New World, a ghost hiding in plain sight among the burgeoning colonies. His story inspired a generation of pirates that followed, creating the legend of the ultimate pirate fantasy, one massive score, followed by a clean getaway. He became a specter, a myth. The subject of plays, books, and ballads. The king of pirates, whose true fate was a blank canvas for the world's imagination. Henry Every demonstrated the fragility of global power. He proved that a single, determined individual could challenge empires, disrupt global trade, and bring superpowers to their knees. But in the end, his greatest prize was not the Mughal treasure. It was his anonymity. The one treasure no empire could take from him. He remains forever at large, a king without a throne, a ghost in the machine of history. A man who won the game, and then simply walked off the board.